Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk Seahawks, the podcast for fans like you. I'm your host, Robert Smith, and today with me, we have Josh from the 12 Talk podcast over there in the UK, joining me to review this Week 11 loss, 17-16, at the LA Rams. Josh, let's talk Seahawks.
Let's begrudgingly. It's still a sore subject. Like even after Sunday, just that first half performance. So we'll go into it in greater detail. But from how it started and how it finished in that first half, exactly the same as the first game of the season, to how it finished, it was just obviously we watch it really late here. So I went to bed just thinking, what happened? And yeah, I'm glad I get a chance now to talk to you about it and hopefully relieve some of the stress that's built up about it.
Yeah. Oh, this game. It's tough. I had to go recently got into I can't say recently, it's been a few years, but I'm not a big drinker, right? That's just not my relief. I do enjoy a good premium cigar. And so after this game, I had to go. I had to go have a cigar in the backyard by the fire pit, just kind of wallow in my sorrow there for a minute. But I didn't grab one of the top shelf cigars that I have. No, the team didn't perform well enough for me to have a good cigar. I had to go grab one of my bottom shelf guys.
So you guys are like, I think in the UK, as much as we complain about it being so late and on some of the some of the time zones in the US, at least we watch it and then go to sleep. You guys have to watch it, and that's with you all day. And I don't think I could deal with it. I wake up and my wife, the first question she asked me is, "Did you win?" And my answer gauges very quick. I don't even have to say words. It's just the instant tone that comes out. And she goes, okay, fair enough. Yeah. Kid gloves after that, which is probably wise.
No, I get to wallow in my sorrow all day long. But my thoughts here on this game, once again, it's another game that Jason Myers went out and scored more points than the offense. Not really a winning formula. No. I did in my game prediction. I got the score completely wrong, but I did predict a Myers game-winning field goal. I said it would come down to the field goal. I just was on the wrong side of that prediction.
You jinxed it.
I did. You can blame it on me. I'll take that. Seahawks fanhood, it's on me.
Out there. There's other podcasters out there that said the exact same thing, and I've been listening to in my car, going to and from work and whatnot, and meetings, and going, it's your fault. Now, Rob, I know that it's an accumulative effort. It wasn't just one podcaster; it was at least two and possibly three. So
I'll take my part of the fraction of that fault right there. I guess it comes down to you have to win the games you're supposed to win. This was a game we're supposed to win because it's setting up this gauntlet that we have to run. And Adam and I said it on our preview show. This was so the NBA has this stupid thing they're doing called the in-season tournament. And they're just trying to find a way to get fans to watch games during the season because NBA players don't try until the playoffs. And so it's this one single elimination kind of round robin tournament. They're modeled it off of the NCAA tournament. This was the Seahawks in-season tournament, right? It was this game and then the next 4 games. That was like the mock playoff run. And we failed that test. First round exit.
Fell the first hurdle. It was shocking. I mean, we put up on our Twitter, sort of the at 12 Talk Pod Twitter, we put a poll up to say, out of the next 4 games, because we couldn't have 5, which is the most important? I'm a firm believer that this was the most important to start a winning mentality when it came into the rest of these games. If we can sort of shake off the disappointment of the first game of the season and then come into this, clean out the Rams, and then really go on to the 49ers on Thursday, I thought, perfect. A lot of people are saying 49ers on Thursday was the best one, but that's the one that we should have been looking for. I'm with you. I think this is what would have been a catalyst for a deeper run, a more competitive run through these next lot of games. The gauntlet, as you put it, because none of these teams are going to roll over and take it. I mean, Thursday, we've got possibly one of our most difficult matchups of the season. And it's not even funny. I think that this is something that obviously will be discussed throughout the week through the Seahawks fandom and podcasts. And I'm kind of dreading Thursday. It's not only is it a really late kickoff for us, it's also the fact that we are playing, in my opinion, and I'm loath to say this, at the moment, one of the best teams in the NFL.
Yeah, probably the best defense in the NFL.
I'm going to have to go bathe in bleach after this for saying that. I didn't say their name, though. It's fine.
There you go.
Keep that out
there
my
you
mouth.
go. Yeah, I jumped on YouTube and threw out a little credit to the Rams on Sean McVay's post-game press conference because, I mean, they swept us. So obviously he's doing something right. It hurt, though. That's one of those things I did as I was wallowing out by the fire pit, smoking on my cheap cigar. So Adam and I ran down some 5 keys to success going into this game. And I have the stats for these, and then I'll kind of give my thoughts on them. And then why don't you just, when I'm done, just jump in with how you feel with these categories the Seahawks did this
absolutely fine
game. All right. So our 5 keys to success, our first one was that we have to own the slot. Right. We know Witherspoon's playing really well there. We know they use the big nickel. Obviously, Jamal Adams didn't play. So when he walks down into the slot and Jordan Love comes out as that other safety, that wasn't used in this matchup. We lost Jarek Reed, another safety in this game, and news is torn ACL. And obviously, Kobe Bryant has been on injured reserve, so he wasn't available for this game either. We were thin at safety. Jamal Adams didn't play, so they didn't have that big nickel look. So it was all up to Witherspoon. So my thing on this was, I don't want Witherspoon blitzing. I don't want Witherspoon doing the extra stuff. He needs to cover Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua because those two guys are just slot-o-matic, right? You know that they're going to produce. And I put on this, I thought they were going to heavy dose because if I were scheming an offense with those two guys, like we're going to use our slot receiver a lot. Yeah. So I said, I want under 12 combined receptions, but personally as a defensive guy, I wanted under 10 combined receptions with those. And the Cooper Kupp injury kind of helped us in that regard. Combined, they had 6 receptions for 81 yards and 1 touchdown on 8 total targets. So technically by the metric, the defense did that, but it's tough.
Yeah, by the receptions, it's like, sorry, the receptions absolutely fine with that, but the yards they gave up through that, whether it be yak or just passing yards, I don't know. I've not looked that far in because, like I said, I've been too busy mulling over so many other points in my mind about this. We have an issue with. It's been better this season with having Jamal back and having Spoon in there at the slot, but we have an issue with that middle part of the field and slot receivers. And I still to this day cannot figure out why it's an issue with the personnel we have. And when you play people like Cooper Kupp, and we know Puka Nacua is an absolute monster, I don't know why we're allowing that many yards, even off 6 receptions. That's over 10 yards per reception. About 13, is it, yards per reception and a touchdown. I can't compute it. And every time I try, my brain just goes, nope.
Nope, error codes. Beep.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say by the receptions, I should have put a yardage and I should have put more metrics after this. So I'm going to say that they achieved this, but because I put in bad metrics.
Achieved it by default.
Yes.
I agree. They achieved it by your metrics, but all it'd take is one reception in the slot to go for 90 yards, and that's too many. One reception in the slot that goes for 30, 40 yards is too many. 6 receptions that go for over 80 and a touchdown is too many in this league.
Oh, 100%. I should have looked up. I closed all my stat windows, but the receiver who came in when Cooper Kupp went out, the other slot body type guy.
Skowronek, is it? Or
it wasn't. Skowronek has that same build, but it's another guy.
Skowronek. I'm trying to think. This is how much I know about the Rams. Tutu Atwell, Skowronek, Nakua, and was it Van Jefferson? But he's gone. It doesn't matter. It's the Rams.
The other guy.
The other guy from the Rams.
He did a great job. And so he wasn't factoring into my equation. I actually didn't put, because I had only identified Cooper Kupp and Puka Nakua. I didn't identify the 5th receiver on their team who just so happens to also play slot. But he had a good game too. So maybe if we put all 3 of those guys together, they would have failed in this regard. But I'm with you. My lack of additional metrics, technically they get this win, but you're right, that yardage is unacceptable there out of the slot.
Yeah, it is. And it's something that needs to be addressed. The slot, the middle of the field, 2 huge things that have just been a massive bugbear for me in recent years. So yeah, I think you say that they owned it by the metrics. I say that the Rams owned it on that one.
Oh, 100%. All right. So our second key to success, Adam liked to throw out a little bit of humor here. So it's run D, and then he just threw a little MC at the end for, those of us who are old.
I like it.
So it's the run defense. My metric here was let's repeat week 1, where we held them to under 100 yards. It was less than 3 yards per carry. And I have to say, I think our defense nailed this. Once again, we only gave up 17 points. So any defense that can hold a team to 17 points, you have a shot at the NFL. So they had 27 carries for 82 yards. That is an average of 3.04 yards per carry. There you go. Under 100, 3 yards per carry. What more can you ask for the defense to do?
There's nothing more. The run D has just been transformative this year. The fact that we're not seeing us get gashed up the middle. I think when you look at that interior D line, it's an absolute monster of just the front 3, where you've got, whether it's Reed at nose tackle, who's been a revelation, and then you look at the 2-3 techs, whether it's Edwards, whether you have Draymond Jones, still up in the air, whether he's actually worth the money at the moment. And then you've got
Leonard Williams.
I think they've been brilliant. But 82 yards, there were Royce Freeman somehow came on and had some biggish runs, which shocked me. First time he came on, and then the announcer said, "Oh, that's Royce Freeman." I was thinking, how many clubs has he been at? Apart from that, you look when you look at the rushing, so he was 73, Puka Nakua got 7, Henderson got 6 carries, 1 yard. The same for Stafford, 1 yard, but that is obscene. Obviously, Henderson was 6 carries for 1 yard and 1 touchdown. So,
make it count, right?
Well, yes, if you're going to get the ball and, you're only going to get 1 yard, get 1 touchdown from it. But, the run D has been amazing this year. The fact we only let them score 17 points, this should be a winning game. Purely based on that sort of the defense, starting with the run D, which was my biggest fear this year. And then it's just come out all guns blazing. And it's one of the best in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was my biggest concern coming into the season, because we were ranked 30th in the NFL last year.
It was awful.
Awful.
It's an absolute horror show. Yeah.
All right. So our third key to success was Stafford versus the blitz. So the last 2 years, Matthew Stafford was number 1 in the NFL when it came to completion percentage, QBR, basically stats versus the blitz. And so here I'm like, I don't want you blitzing. The metric is you have to get pressure with only 4 guys rushing. Now, in a 3-4 front, when we're not in nickel, who knows where that 4th guy is coming from? but please let's keep it to 4. Well,
no more deference.
Let's see. So the Seahawks blitzed on 25% of their defensive snaps. I'll take that because you have to show some blitz so that they're looking for it. On that 25%, Stafford had a 43% completion percentage for 25 yards and 52.7 QBR. Hey, I was wrong. Apparently, Stafford is pretty good against the blitz, but not in this last game. And maybe we should have blitzed a little bit more. On the counter to that,
I was going to say there's going to be one.
is we only got 9 pressures when we weren't blitzing in the whole game. So I don't believe we were able to pass my metric of get pressure with only 4 defenders.
No.
So I gotta give them a failing grade here on number 3.
And the only sack that came was from a nickel blitz from Spoon, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that's essentially your 4th guy. But what really got to me was how Stafford, bearing in mind, and I speak from experience, his spinal cord is held on by a shoestring. Less than that. That was the big issue with him. However, he still managed to maintain some mobility to the point where he managed to escape the pocket and outrun Darrell Taylor. Now, if I'm DT, I am wanting that whole clip erased from existence because that is going to be telling for his next contract. If someone looks at that and goes, you can't even outrun Matt Stafford. I think we were fantastic. Like I said, 25% blitzing was brilliant because we had enough issues, as we said earlier, with the slot receivers and what else they can draw up. I'd say this is a win for them, but it was just the contain of Stafford that I had the big issue with.
So Darrell Taylor was injured, didn't get to participate in the combine. But I would love, after you brought that up, I would love to see the simulcam of Darrell Taylor versus Matt Stafford for their 40s.
The thing, his whole thing is, and I'm going to go a bit off topic here. Sorry, I'll only be brief. His whole thing is predicated on pass rush, speed, and there's different types of speed. Obviously, you've got your short, your fast twitch speed, which is over sort of a 10, 20 yard. And then anything beyond that, you class as your slow twitch, which is sort of your stamina to keep going. But if that was fast twitch speed, because Stafford didn't run 20 yards, but still outran him, what has he been doing? How is he even considered as a speed rusher? I'll go off on an even bigger tangent. I can't. Quick, rein it back in, Rob. Rein it back in.
All right, let's look at our number 4, because we do have some other topics we want to get to later in the show. Our 4th key to success was it's all about the ball. And this was about turnovers. I put this metric at 1 or fewer turnovers in the game. And we only had 1 turnover. Of course, it was Drew Lock with essentially an arm punt down the field, 30 plus yards down the field. But yeah, I got to give the offense credit. Well, at least we didn't give them free chances.
This is I think this has been a big part of sort of Seahawks fandom recently. Give Drew Lock a chance. And don't get me wrong, I would, with a bit more prep, possibly consider it. But I think Geno's good enough for what we need at the moment for how far we're going to go. That, as you said, the arm punt was just Lockett's over there somewhere and didn't even consider it. The worst thing is, if he'd have connected on his first pass to JSN, I don't think he'd have been looking at that. And
no.
The one turnover, 1 INT, brilliant. Could have been even less if we'd actually used our run game more rather than him just trying to punt it up the field all the time. But yeah, I'll take 1 INT. I think Geno will take it as well because it's a 0 in his INT column for the game. Although he did spend half of it injured. So
yeah. Well, and that actually, your point leads me into our 5th key to success, which is a balanced offense, right? My metric was I want at least 45% run, right? And the rest can be pass. Well, in the 3 series that Drew Lock was on the field, there were only 2 called run plays. My backup quarterback's in. He hasn't had any time with the number 1s. Let me just go out there and force him to throw a pass on every single down. Probably not a winning formula.
But definitely not.
To get to the metric, they actually did it, which is weird, but it's skewed a little bit. Let me throw these numbers out here.
Okay.
So technically there are 21 rushes. I eliminate some. There are 19 for this metric because one of them was a Geno Smith scramble, and the other one was the last run of the game, which Geno actually called in the huddle because,
his earpiece went out.
He says his earpiece went out. Pete Carroll on, I want to say like Sports Talk, like the Seattle Sports Talk show that he does, said that the play was late getting in. I choose to believe Pete Carroll on this, which just puts another tick into the Shane Waldron's not clutch category. But they should have been clocking the ball anyway in that regard. So the whole sideline should have been like, clock the ball, throw the ball down.
It screams to me like Geno, as a veteran in the league now, surely he should have realized that. He shouldn't have just been robotically waiting for that call to come in. He should have had, when the clock time play time started going down, he should have gone, right, let's get to the line, let's just clock the ball, give ourselves some more time. Well, that didn't happen. The fact that Waldron, and I hope it's going to be a subject later on because I've got a lot to say on Waldron. The fact that Waldron called the run play there is ridiculous. The fact that Geno didn't think to spike it when the play came in too late, ridiculous as well. The fact that we've actually, by your metrics, managed to have the balanced offense, I find surprising.
Yeah, so the math on that, right, 21 rushes. Mm-hmm. I'm taking out the Geno scramble because it wasn't a called play. I'm taking out the Geno called play because it didn't come from the coaching staff.
So it's just skewing metrics now. So
19 called plays by our offensive play calling staff.
Mm-hmm.
We had 40 pass attempts, which technically I should have made the scramble one of these. It doesn't matter. It's still close. So using 40, it's 47.5%. But how many of those came early in the game? I have that. And for some reason, it's 13. On our first 2 drives, 13 called run plays in our first 2 drives, which took an average of a little over 8 minutes per drive. Like, that's how you win a ball game.
Mm-hmm.
Balanced offense means control the clock, keep the defense guessing. You can do what you need to do. Okay, well, when we had a balanced offense, 2 scoring drives, over 8 minutes long, 13 rushes on those 2 drives. And then that means for the rest of the game, there were 6 called rush plays, and only 2 of those were during the time when your backup quarterback's on the field. It's not a recipe for success. I've jokingly called Shane Waldron the Madden kid because there's no semblance to what he does. And yeah, he is definitely showing he is not clutch, so to speak.
Well, we said this the last time Mitch and I were on the podcast, where it was just all verticals, wasn't it? So it's like, what can I do with my 2 outside receivers? Just run them on verts. That's it. 0 level concepts. Who cares? This and I look at it from a coaching point of view as a rugby coach now. The thing that I look at is having a balanced game between, in rugby terms, kicking, passing, and possession, which you should have. In NFL terms, the fact that as soon as K9 went out, Waldron had a brain fart and went, "Oh, what do I do now?" The same as he's actually had every time he's had K9 and Charbonnet, running K9 up the gut and trying to run Charbonnet out wide, which just baffles me because there should be the complete opposite. The balance in this offense hasn't been there all season. Pete says, and he said in multiple pressers now, we are a run-first team. That is our identity. That's what we need to get back to. And it's like Waldron goes, yes, we are, cool. And then he gets to the end of the first quarter after his sort of couple of scripted drives and goes, what was it Pete said? I will just throw it. And then teams just account for that. And this is why we look at the points we're scoring. There's a reason why J-Mize is scoring so many more points than our offense, because teams can basically see what we're doing. They know it's going to be a throw, and those throws are completely ineffective and not utilizing the players we've got like JSM from the slot, just picking up those 4, 5, 6 yard gains and maybe more, adding in some levels to then open up the backfield, running the ball to be able to draw that defense towards the line of scrimmage and then open up more out. It's the balance all season has not been there. And I am not a man for sack the coach, sack the coordinator, whatever, but I'm thinking, is Waldron the right man for the job? And it's leaning heavily towards no at the moment.
Yeah, it's a no for me. I can confidently say that. There's a lot that I like about Shane Waldron. Mm-hmm. He brings a brilliant offensive mind to the table. He has some great play design. If you look through some of the things that they have, the route combinations, it's a lot of that is just, it's beautiful when you look at it on paper. The thing that he is missing is he doesn't have the play calling skill set in his repertoire. So he should be the offensive coordinator for an offensive play calling coach like Andy Reid or Sean McVay. Right? Guys like that who have more control. Somebody like Shane Waldron would be a fantastic offensive coordinator for, but not the defensive minded Pete Carroll who doesn't call plays because he trusts his coordinators.
It seems to me, I admit he's drawn up some beautiful plays. When you look at the route concepts and obviously where we line up, I think they do look fantastic. And part of this will be a lot of people saying, oh, it's because Geno's got limitations. That may be. But that doesn't shy away from the fact that, or detract from the fact that there is never an easy out. So when you look at the majority of these route concepts, it seems like he's telling Geno what his hot read is, but then it's not instilled into Geno or the play design. But your easy out here is JSM wide open on the line of scrimmage, so he can then run for 3 or 4 yards. That seems to never happen, and it's so infuriating that we're just looking for first downs on every single ball. There's no usage of the tight ends anymore, which if I was Noah Fant, I would be counting down the days until my contract with the Seattle Seahawks is over, because he is a wasted commodity. He's one of the most athletic tight ends in the league. And he's come here and he's getting nothing. You know, it baffles me. Like the offense is just, it's in complete disarray. We don't know what we're doing. There's no identity. We can't follow through with a game plan. If we carried on running the ball like we did in the first quarter, all the way through that game, we would have whittled down that clock to a point where the Rams had to play panic ball. And that's where there would have been more turnovers. But, sorry, I got a bit ranty there. Like I said, it's been building up.
Oh, that's been me all year. All season.
Yeah, dude.
And the funny thing is there's not much being done about it. Pete Carroll, after the Baltimore loss, actually said some things that indicated he was well aware offensive play calling, formation utilization, position group utilization, primarily tight ends. Though he didn't say that. That's just me reading the tea leaves.
Yeah.
Was not being done in an efficient and successful way. Now, he's never going to come out and say, Shane Waldron's got to do better, because that's the guy that Pete Carroll is. He's going to take it on himself, and then, you know, in private, he'll have those conversations. And after that game, I said, the Seahawks they're not going to fire somebody midseason. That's not what the Seahawks do. Nor do I want them to do that, because that just causes turmoil within an organization. What they need to do is bring in an offensive consultant. And that offensive consultant should be an experienced play caller in the NFL. Maybe you call that guy the run game coordinator, but you give them play calling duties. Now, Shane Waldron still maintains his title. He doesn't lose face in that regard. But we have a more efficient play caller. We have somebody who has more experience under their belt and can get it done in these situations where obviously it needs to happen.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think it's indicative of the fact that Waldron came from, was he tight end coach at LA? And then he's come in to be an offensive coordinator, which again baffles me, because he's an offensive coordinator who loves a 13-man set, but doesn't use his tight ends. It's really weird. But I think if someone just took the pressure off him and said, Shane, what plays have you got for these situations? And then they could read what was happening in the game and they made that call, I think Shane Waldron's playbook would look fantastic. But he just doesn't seem to select the right plays at the right time.
No. One of the things, and you know this, obviously, from your rugby background, it is okay to move the ball 4 or 5 feet, right? Give me 2 yards, give me 3 yards, 4 yards, totally fine. Right? Because in rugby, and obviously correct me if I'm wrong, I love the sport, I'm just not very knowledgeable.
That's fine.
Once you do that and you reset, right? You've reset. Now you can go stretch them out the other direction, or you can run whichever play you have.
Yeah,
in your
it's in rugby terms for any of the UK fans that might be watching this, but it's what's called an exhaust pattern. So you're literally stretching the field from side to side to create the gaps throughout the defense. And in essence, it's what good teams in the NFL do. They move the defense and their offense around to create those gaps in the backfield where it should be easier passes. You've got, 2 men because you've got double coverage on someone, which leaves someone open. But again, not something we do. DK Metcalf should be this wide receiver 1 who is drawing double coverage or triple coverage every time because he breaks off 1 or 2 big catches and they go, best account for that, leaving the underneath stuff open for a JSN or for a running back coming out, and it just doesn't happen. And it's like I said, those I've advocated it for a long time. I would rather have an offensive drive where we use 3 downs to get 4 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, and then back to first down. And just keep that going. It drains the clock. It keeps the ball out of the opposition's hands. And it's effective. And you're not putting too much pressure on your quarterback to make 25, 30-yard throws downfield.
And it's fundamental football.
Yeah.
like, let's just say it for what it is. All right. Shane Waldron does not understand fundamental football. And I'll be direct. Earlier in the season, I danced around that particular fact a little bit, but yeah, he doesn't understand fundamental football. And I kind of get it. Yes, earlier in his career, he worked with quarterbacks. He was a tight end coach. He became a passing game coordinator, and that was when the Seahawks hired him when he was the Rams pass game coordinator. So Sean McVay's system, but only the pass side of it was what Shane Waldron was bringing in his experience to the Seahawks.
And it's showing, isn't it?
I don't know. It's tough. I really didn't want to continue to rag on Shane Waldron because I've said all of this probably 15 times this year, which is weird because there's only been 11 weeks.
Yeah. That's right. You do a pregame and a postgame. It's fine.
Yeah, there you go. And then as a rugby guy, the missed tackles this season on defense have to kill you.
As a player and a coach who prides myself on tackle technique, and I've ranted on my Twitter so much with this, and I've interned it a little bit on the 12 Talk Twitter as well, where it's just basic fundamentals. And obviously you as a defensive coach for football, I have a massive concern. So as someone who suffered a spinal cord injury and paralyzed himself in a tackle, all right, just a freak accident where I got a knee to the top of the head. I have a big issue with the way football players are taught to tackle with their head on the wrong side, essentially using your head as a barrier to prevent that player running any further. That is fundamentally, and it's just a risk, like health-wise. In rugby, at least, tackling, staying on your toes, without getting flat-footed, without getting stepped, using your arms to wrap and sink if needs be, to squeeze, to stop the run. Even if you're hanging off one leg, you're still slowing them down for a teammate to come. The amount of tackles the Seahawks have missed this year through bad technique, through no arm tackles, just trying to put a shoulder in there, trying to rip a ball out needlessly, trying to peanut punch things, and coming at everything from the wrong angle of contact. It has been the biggest concern for me on what should be an elite defense. It's huge. And all I can see is some of these players. Tariq Woolen terrifies me in tackle situations at the moment because he's not confident, and confidence is key when it comes to tackling. So he's just going to throw his body in there somewhere, and that's where he's going to end up with a serious injury. Q-Diggs at the moment as well is doing very much the same thing. He's going in like a missile with no arms, and I'm just thinking, it takes someone to step and you're head on with them, and that's compression of the spine. These fundamental things were supposed to be addressed years ago when Pete Carroll employed a Fijian professional rugby player to come in and teach rugby tackling. That's why the Legion of Boom was so effective. However, that has now gone completely. And it is the biggest bugbear. If anyone pays attention to our Twitter or my personal Twitter, you will see it at least 3 or 4 tweets a game where I will just pinpoint them. When our pod starts, I will be having, there you go, at Josh_12 Talk. And then we've got at 12 Talk Pod as well. I will pinpoint these moments and these tackles in a game, and I will happily highlight how that could have been better. But it's the biggest infuriation. Professional sportsmen who've played this game all their life, in the majority, who can't tackle, is a fundamental of any contact sport. American football, rugby, doesn't matter. You should be putting in these tackles. Sorry, went off on a rant.
I kind of set you up for that one, though. So it's on me.
You pitched that one straight to me. Thank you.
Yep, anytime. No, I feel the same way coming from a defensive background. In fact, this might make you feel better. USA football, which it doesn't govern all of youth football, but they do a lot. A lot of leagues use their certification for their coaches before they're allowed to coach teams. So they are trying to get the head on the correct side of a tackle. So in the training videos, things like that, they have the head where it should be and not risking, a neck pinch or something like that.
And anyone who's an amateur football coach in the US, just remember cheek to cheek. Your cheek on the butt cheek. That's where it needs to go. Yep. If your cheek is on the other side, that's injury town. Cheek to cheek. I teach it to kids. I teach it to 17-year-olds. I teach it to adults when I'm still coaching them. It's the easiest thing. Same as when you come in from the side, cheek to cheek every time. You don't want a knee to the face or a face full of groin. You just want to be able to get the soft, mushy bit against your soft, mushy bit of your face, and then just use your legs to drive through. Yep. I'd love to coach tackling in American football. I think I'd blow some people's minds.
If I'm ever in a high status head coaching position, I will bring you over to come be a defensive coach. So last coaching kind of thing that I did was just I was a defensive coordinator for a youth league, middle schoolers, 8th grade, that 14-year-olds, right? 13, 14-year-olds. And I harped on fundamental tackling so much that we tackled every single practice, fundamentals, right? We weren't out there running Oklahoma drills, blowing people up, because that's not what you see on the field, right? We were working on angle tackling, pursuit angles, proper tackling technique. My bottom of the roster kids could tackle my number 1 running back on that team. because of technique. And that meant our special teams unit, we were able to get our star players rest because every single person out there on special teams could tackle securely in the open field. Fundamentals don't go away, right? Technique and fundamentals, you start when you start playing as a youth, and that should be a focus until you retire, regardless of what age you are when that happens.
Yeah. Well, my dad was my youth coach when I played. So obviously, don't like to keep harking on about rugby, but rugby league, which is the northern version of rugby, which is slightly different to what everyone sees. He taught me a very simple technique when it comes to tackling and tackling effectively. It's toes, knees, hips, dip, and that gets your body into a perfect position. And then if you got coached by the RF, you do these T-Rex arm things, which aren't always effective. But that sets you perfectly to be able to project your body using the strongest parts of it straight through a tackle. And it keeps your height low, and then all you've got to do is focus on your head. It's simple stuff. And if you're teaching correct tackle technique, I'm all for it. Rob, I'd love to see videos of this because I still need proof it's taught to American football kids.
Well, the funny thing is, it is, because in the USA Football tackle training video, and this was from a few years ago, it was the Seahawks coaching staff who were on that video. It was from the era of the rugby guys.
LRB, and right, that's fine. So it's not the current ones, because I'd be deleting that video pretty quick if it was the current ones.
So I actually hadn't planned on talking about missed tackles, so I don't even have a stat for it. But coming into this game, the Seahawks led the league in missed tackles for the season. So barring some amazing stat that I don't have pulled up, they're probably still in that category. Mm-hmm. But there are a few things I do want to talk about here before we wrap it up. And that's, we touched on it. Do you think that Geno's injury was the reason the Seahawks lost this game?
No, it wasn't. Geno's, I'll be very honest, I think Ken Walker's injury was the reason we lost this game, because Shane Waldron didn't know what to do then. He doesn't know what to do with running backs anyway, by, as we said earlier, with playing them the complete wrong way. Although Charbonnet did make two lovely cuts to the outside on one run. I think as soon as K9 went down and Waldron couldn't rely on his running ability, he didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to run Charbonnet. He didn't know how to accommodate the added pressure of not having a star running back. He didn't draw up the right plays for sort of the receiving core because of that. You can use Charbonnet out of the backfield as well, but I don't think I saw that very often. I think he might have had one or two catches. I will see it shortly. We had six receptions for 22 yards. So,
but they were all. They
were like
pressure in my face here. Let me dump this off.
Exactly. And then this, I don't think Geno's injury was the cause of it. I think the fact that Drew Lock wasn't prepared.
He looked
was
lost.
A big cause of it. He did, and it's the. Obviously, having played any sport, a team sport, you play with different players and you have to learn to accommodate how they play. Now, Drew Lock has always been, in my opinion, an absolute rapid-fire gunslinger. If he's in trouble but he sees something, that ball comes out of his hand at a rate of knots that I don't see from many quarterbacks. And that's what happened with JSM. JSM was running his route and Drew Lock could see it developing and knew that he had that space right in the middle of the field to just sling it down to. But because JSN hadn't taken many passes from him, he didn't know that as soon as he was about to break that and create separation, the ball was going to be there. If it was Geno, he would have had a few steps before the ball got there. Not the case with Locke, and that's just because he's had no reps with the first team. So I think it was more K9's injury, if I'm being completely honest. I think that's what sort of really, really capsized our ship.
Yeah, I can see that. A little more on Geno's injury, just to put this out there. They say it looks like it's a bruise around the triceps tendon towards his elbow, which, I mean, that's basically smacking your funny bone to the nth degree.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that he was iced up, that he probably, if Drew Lock was able to be effective within the plays that were called, or more importantly, if the plays that were called were effective to the game situation, Geno probably would not have come back into this game.
No,
so
he wouldn't have needed to.
They actually risked hurting Geno Smith further because they were ineffective at what they were doing. Good news is it looks like he's going to be good to go for the game against the 49ers. But yeah, Drew Lock went 2 for 6 in the passing game for 3 yards, 1 interception, and earned himself a 2.8 NFL passer rating. I didn't know it went that low.
It's awful, isn't it? I kind of feel sorry for Drew, and it's the same as I kind of feel sorry for Geno at times. And Mitch and I have said this. I'm just gonna bag on Waldron again. Waldron doesn't seem to be able to draw up plays to play to the strengths and accommodate the weaknesses of his quarterbacks. He just goes, these are the plays, that's it, go off and do them without any consideration for who might be throwing the ball. And I think this is where Drew Lock came in, and they were trying to run the same plays they might have done for Geno, but Drew isn't that quarterback. The same as if you drew up plays for Drew Lock and asked Geno to do it, it wouldn't work. And it was an awful few downs from Lock. But there's not a lot he could really do. He just has to throw that ball up to Lockett and pray to God that he got it, which he didn't. And then if JSN had turned his head a second sooner and had his hands up, he could have been in for a touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll actually use you bringing Waldron up to lead into another talking point that I have here, and that is our third down woes. 33% on the season, offensive third down conversion percentage. In this game, the offense was 5 for 15 on third downs after starting 3 for 3.
Right, yeah.
That's not 5 after those 3. It's a total of 5, and we started 3 for 3 on third down. That's just not going to cut it. I believe it comes to offensive play calling. You can only put so much on players. Mm-hmm. It's 3 and 7, and they have receivers 25 yards down the field, and nobody on an outlet route, nobody on a short crosser. I just don't get it.
What did I say before? There's that no easy outlet for a quarterback with Waldron's play designs. If the fact that we keep getting to third down for me is troubling anyway, because the best teams can go 1, 2, and then they reset the downs. We seem to get to third, and it was pretty much all second half. We were third and long, and that's a troubling stat. Ineffective passes behind the line of scrimmage. It's just baffling. And the third down woes that you put right there, it hits a nail on the head, because we have been so ineffective with zero imagination, zero outlet for our quarterback, that we deserve to have a 33, say 33%, was it? Conversion rate on third downs?
It's roughly 30%.
Low. Yeah. So, again, offensive play calling. With the amount of weapons he's got, with the amount of options he's got, we shouldn't ever be in that position.
No. Okay, there's 2 things I want to talk about before we wrap it up.
Okay.
And that is, one is positive, so we'll save that for the end.
Excellent. Let's finish on a high.
You want to finish on a high.
Yeah.
So we're gonna hit this. We're gonna keep going into this negative hole we seem to be going into. Coming into this game, the Seahawks were number 1 in the NFL in penalties. So this game definitely added to that. 12
I was waiting
penalties
for this. 130 yards.
Yeah. Oh, you can't give up a football field for free.
I've never seen that. In all my years of following the NFL and the Seahawks, I can't remember a single game seeing that. There's probably one in history, but I've erased it from my mind. But it was awful. Some of them were horrible penalties to give as well. The spoonplex, as I've called it, taking Puka Nacua to Spoonplex City,
yep,
wasn't the right time to do it. It was entertaining, and it showed his want to absolutely decimate people running in his lane. But no, the defensive pass interference in the end zone when Nacua just trips over his own feet when Spoon is this far away from him. Again, no. But then some of them like Love coming in too early on that hit, and there was just some horrible Woolen again with hands to the face. You're 6'4", 6'5", with arms that are nearly down past your knees. You're so long. Do not put your hand above your chest when you are in that position, because most of the receivers you face aren't going to be the same height as you, so it's going to be their face mask. It was awful. Just the woes on it. I get a bit of a twitch when I think about it, because it hurt me to watch it every single time. I thought the defense was doing so well, and we were just giving up these silly penalties and these silly yards. And I thought we're allowing the Rams to win this game. I didn't see this as, we lost it. It's more we let the Rams win it. That was my sort of assessment by the end of it.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. In fact, somehow you got a copy of my notes, because you nailed the exact penalties that I was going to talk about.
Great minds. So that's what it is. Yeah.
Obviously, the Witherspoon suplex, that's just a young guy not understanding the situation. Everybody knew that was a penalty the minute it happened. I was jazzed. I was like, yeah. Oh,
do you know
flag's about to come out.
I saw it and I did the exact same thing. And I thought, that could be an injury waiting to happen. But the way he did it, he actually put him onto his back. So he didn't sort of spear him head first, or didn't fall on a funny angle. He sort of picked him up, had the one arm that goes, and it looked like an Anglo-Greco wrestling move, where he just picked him up, and then it was the one arm that just sort of plowed him down onto his back on the ground. And I thought, you know what, technically, there's probably wrestlers looking at that going,
good for him.
Yeah, good for him. But yeah, it was just it was entertaining. But again, a young lad who just had a bit too much juice about him in that play.
Yeah. As far as the Jordan Love 46-yard pass interference call, he is better than that. And I guarantee coaches have told him, you have to play the hands. Right. The receiver's tracking the ball. So either you lose track of the receiver to find the ball, which is an option,
happens, yeah,
or you play the receiver. So he's going for the ball. You need to be able to swipe through those hands when his hands go out, because you're not in a position to play the ball. So it was a technique thing. He needs to be better and slow down the process, right? He was like, holy crap, I'm going to get beat. This ball's up. And he ended up running through the guy. And of course, Tutu Atwell's like 5'9", 150 pounds or something like that. So any little bump and he's going to go flying. You got to think, if that was, say, DK Metcalf running down there, they probably wouldn't have thrown the flag, because they wouldn't have even noticed the contact happened.
Yeah.
It's just a bad situation.
It's just bad read of the play. It's when you come up against people like that, you know that a ref's going to be watching any sort of contact, because, like you said, they are going to hit the deck. They're going to go flying, and is what it is. But again, Love, as an experienced player now, should have known that, but he didn't. He was too busy focusing on how can I break up that play, how can I stop them getting this third down, resetting the downs, and
I think the Woolen hands to the face is the most egregious actual penalty that happened, because that was a 4th down, I believe, right? And they got a new set of downs.
Yeah.
Once again, you said it. He's 6'4", long arms. It's all about the jam point. When when I coach defensive backs, I am a press man guy. That's what I teach. If you're not athletic enough to play press man, I don't want you at corner. I'll move you at safety, or we'll make you a small linebacker. And it's not anything against the player. It's just for the system I want to run, what I want to see from my defensive backs. I like versatility to use other players. I need my corners to be able to be athletic enough to shut guys down. Now, Woolen, Witherspoon, Trey Brown, all those guys, 100% fit the bill. Woolen needs to sink his hips. Pete Carroll said it. He's like, we jam on almost every single play. Now, it might be a jam bail into a zone concept or whatever it is. He needs to sink his hips at the line of scrimmage, especially when he's up against a Tutu Atwell or this other receiver whose name is still eluding me 45 minutes after we tried to figure it out. Guys that are slightly smaller in stature, you're right. You put your hand out and you're punching them in the face. So he needs to sink his hips. That might help him with his jam aim point.
Austin Trammell or Trammell. There you go. Or DeMarcus Robinson.
It was Trammell.
One of those. It was Trammell. There you go.
Yep. He's the guy. And props to him. He played well coming in with more time than he thought he was going to have.
Yeah.
All right. I said I was going to kind of wrap up on a more positive note. So this was a game we should have won. But this isn't the end of our season. So looking at our season outlook, what are our chances to make the playoffs? How does this look? We're running into these 4 games of monsters. Oh, monsters in the NFC. These are all NFC games. Yeah. So it has a lot of implications. So I went through and I used the New York Times playoff simulator. It uses a model whose name is eluding me at the moment, but it basically runs 170,000 different win-loss combinations throughout all the games in the NFL. And it gives you kind of an aggregate percentage based upon those simulations and the input data that you put in. So I'm able to select wins and losses for the rest of the season, and it turns out some numbers. Currently, as it stands, we have a 54% chance to make the playoffs. Not great, right? 54%, just over half is not the realm I want to be in. But when you input data for the rest of the season, that number changes. If we lose the next 4, which is a legit possibility, our record will be 6-8 at that point, going into the final 3 games. So we lose the next 4, but we win out the final 3. And that's going to be the scenario across all of these that I'm going to talk about, is we have to win those final 3. If that happens, we lose the next 4 and then win the final 3, we have a 73% chance to make the playoffs. It's crazy to think that you have a 5-game losing skid in the middle of your season and you still have a 73% chance. That just tells you how wide open the NFC is.
Yeah. I applaud you for trying to bring the positivity there. This 5-game stretch or 4-game stretch is going to be now, however, is going to be too painful to even contemplate that. If we can pull out a win against 149ers win and Mason, hopefully a Cowboys win, I'll be happy. But we have to start playing properly. Those last 3 games, I think, are essential.
Yeah. Well, here you go. This might make you feel better then.
Okay, come on. Give me more stats.
Okay. So once again, this is assuming we win the final 3 games. If we win any one of the next 4 games, so that's one of the Niners, Cowboys, Eagles, any one of the 4, we go 1-3 over the next 4 weeks. Our chances to make the playoffs shoots up to 98%.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, you made me feel better. Yeah.
Now it's a wild card. You'll be a wild card team on the road. But I'm like, okay, let's play with this a little bit more. Say we win both the 49er games, lose the other 2, and win the final 3. That's a 100% chance to make the playoffs. We win the division and host a wild card game. Now, you win those 2 games and the Eagles game. Now you have a shot at the first round bye. Now that's a big ask. That is only losing 1 more game for the rest of the season. But it tells you that the number 2 seed in the NFC is technically, there is a road for the Seahawks to get there. Yeah. They must beat the Niners both times. They have to beat the Eagles. and then win those final 3. So that's not something we should be banking on, but there is a chance that we can host a playoff game.
You've given me optimism and intrigue now, Rob, because I'm looking at this and I might have to crunch some numbers with Mitch to see what our win-loss ratios and points scored are on average. And you know as well as I, Mitch loves a spreadsheet for this stuff, so he'll be all over that. Yeah, all right, I'll buy in. I'm in. Okay.
All right. So we just need to take care of business. Final 3 games. One of the next 4, and we're at least in the dance. We have a chance. So what are your final thoughts as we wrap this up?
Thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure. I honestly hope that, like I said, I don't see us winning both 49ers. I see us possibly sneaking 2 wins out of this, and I think it will be one 49ers game of the Cowboys. And those last 3, I sincerely hope by Thursday we've sorted out our offensive play calling, utilized all of our weapons. And I would love to see us at least get into wildcard. I'm just going to be watching the season with so much intrigue. Obviously, we haven't started podcasting yet officially, so I'll allow this season to go. And then next season, I will approach it with the utmost optimism. In the meantime, I get to listen to your pod instead, so I'm absolutely fine with that.
All right. Well, hey, thank you. Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. My final thoughts are that there is positivity, right? I just mentioned some of it. We have a really, really good chance to make the playoffs, despite 54% as it sits today. We can do it. The team can get it together. Pete Carroll is a good enough coach that despite some failings on his coaching staff, he should be able to wrap this up. He should be able to get the guys motivated and get moving in the right direction. Thank you, Josh, for coming on. Adam had a family emergency. He last minute had to drive 1,400 miles in like one day. Whoa. So thank you for coming on and making sure I didn't have the chance to do this by myself.
Absolute pleasure, dude. We'll always come on and help.
Solo episodes are rough.
Yeah.
But thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you, everybody out there in the audio-only podcast world. Please rate us on whichever platform you choose to consume your podcasts. Send us some feedback if you can. We really enjoy that. We can fine-tune things, find ways to make sure that we are performing up to our utmost. If you're out there watching our live stream on YouTube or a replay of it, please hit that subscribe button. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. You've been listening to Let's Talk Seahawks, the podcast for fans like you. As always, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.